keep an eye out for this one. There was a big court ruling out of the U.S. and certainly raises the questions about what do we have here. But this involves a ruling against the National Association of Realtors and some residential brokers who were found guilty of conspiring to artificially inflate commissions for home sales. You know, that chunk of money you give to your real estate agent when they sell your home. Well, the courts have now awarded a class action suit $1.78 billion. And I guess they hope this will end that practice, you know, allowing agents to boost the commissions as home and mortgage rates get more expensive. And it'll be watched closely here because a federal court just in the last few weeks, it was actually, I guess, mid-September, ruled that a class action lawsuit will also be allowed to go forward, alleging that home sellers in this one in Toronto have been forced to pay artificially inflated commissions for years. And I thought, well, yeah, this is a problem. Frank Leo know anything about this? And apparently he does. Frank Leo from Frank Leo and Associates joining me now. Great to have you.
Hey, Alex. Thank you for inviting me.
Have you found my farm? Because I need a bunker now too.
We're gonna get that for you for sure.
A bunker, like a nice bunker built into like the side of a hill. What do you make of this court ruling? Because I mean, I guess we think this kind of stuff happens, maybe, but how big of a problem is this?
You know what? It really is not a problem at all. I think the explanation was done in a way that makes it look one-sided. The reality is that it's a benefit to buyers and sellers. And so let me explain. In a traditional transaction today, the commission is theoretically paid by the seller for the buyer's agent as well as their own listing agent. And you say, well, they shouldn't pay for the buyer. Well, the problem is this. If the buyer had to pay for that amount, right? So let's say, for example, an average property in Toronto is $1 million. It's $25,000 that the buyer would have to save up to make that payment for their services of a realtor, because they don't get paid until something sells. How long do you think it would take them to save that $25,000 if they were saving $165 a month? 12 and a half years. Why did I say 12 and a half years and $165? Because that would be the amount, if their mortgage was an extra $25,000 today, at today's rates, that's all they'd have to pay per month. So they could buy today instead of waiting 12 and a half years. And the reality is, the sellers don't pay with their own money. The sellers get the money from the buyers for the purchase of the home, and then from that money, they pay out. So it's actually the buyers paying for it anyways.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is how it generally works, because I've done it a few times now. But you can negotiate these things, correct? I mean, most people, I think, if they're doing their own due diligence, you negotiate these things from the top. Like if you find me or sell my house, Frank, I'm going to come to you and say, yeah, no, we're going to give you this much, right? And you would expect that.
Absolutely. The negotiation is always part of the process of a transaction, and real estate is no different. Absolutely, you can negotiate. But what the debate here is who's paying who? And so my contention is that the buyer is paying for the the listing and the selling commission, because the sellers don't pay anything in a traditional model until they get paid from the buyer for the sale of their property. And from those proceeds, then they pay out. So the buyer is paying for everything.
Right. So then the buyer could have a problem with it, though, no?
Well, if we understand
the seller, yeah.
You know, the money's coming for the purchase, and it makes it easier, and it makes it less cumbersome for the buyers to be able to buy sooner if the process is handled through the seller's perspective, because they don't have to save up that $25,000. They're going to get it from the buyer for their mortgage. Might be a little bit higher to compensate for the fees. If the buyers have to pay it like as part of their down payment and increase the amount that they had to have up front, then they would have to wait a lot longer to save that money to buy a property. And so in today's world, you want to get in the market as soon as possible.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about the market, which may almost be a buyer's market right now. But has it been going on here? Is it an issue? Because this other class action lawsuit here in Toronto sounds very similar to the one that was ruled on in the United States, where I guess there are home sellers in this market who feel they've been forced to pay these artificially inflated commissions. So they're basically assuming because Toronto's market was so hot that they were paying prices they shouldn't be paying, and that's, I guess, where they're trying to recoup their money.
It's always been negotiable. We have certain transactions where $1 is offered. I mean, maybe you can't offer zero, but you can offer $1. So there's no set amount, but there is an understanding that if the seller pays from the proceeds of the sale, then more buyers can afford that home, and that's what we want as a seller, to get more money. You want more buyers to be able to afford the property.
Right. And so at the root of this case in the United States, because it's a pretty big settlement, what was actually going on there then?
It was a small town, a small location. It's not a big city. I think it was misunderstood. I think the lawyers who presented the case did a better job than the other side in terms of allowing the general public, and maybe the public didn't understand how the system works. But in reality, the money is coming from the buyers, and so it really is not something to deter homeownership. It's to help it, and the sellers can dictate how much they want to offer to the buyers, and that has been going on for the longest time. So there's really no collusion or anything like that. There is, an amount that is working through the seller, but it's always worked well to allow for homeownership sooner.
Yeah, but key to it is know your rights and negotiate.
Yeah, negotiation. You should negotiate everything. Negotiation should be part of your everyday process and anything you do.
Yeah, well, I'm not good at it. I'm just like, how much do you want? Okay, I'll give you more. But I've learned through my years. Got to ask you this, because we got a headline out today about Toronto home sales, and they have, I guess, sales have dropped 5.8%. So what are we looking at in the market? Is it that stuff is now sitting? Is this turning into a buyer's market? Because I don't think the prices are coming down, or are they?
They're starting to affect the average family. Most people do have a mortgage, and the mortgages are anywhere from 6 months to 5 years. And so as more time goes by, more people have to renew at the current rates, and that's taking a big chunk of their disposable income on top of everything else. I mean, your car payments have gone up, your food costs have gone up, your transportation, everything is really hitting us. And so as a family, we're finding we have less disposable income, and it's hurting us. And so it's becoming more difficult to buy a home, because now what you need to make to qualify for a mortgage has gone way up.
Oh yeah, I know. And so you're probably dealing with a lot of this. And are you finding now that the stress test, trying to get through that process, is taking longer or becoming more difficult?
Of course, yes, absolutely. It's taking longer, and it's much more difficult. I keep referring to a young lady who got qualified pre the interest rates increases, and they were qualified for $500 and some odd thousand. And then after, in November of 2022, so it's gone up even further beyond that. From being qualified for $500, they qualified for $100,000. So their purchasing power went down, tremendously.
This would be a big problem, like if you buy pre-building, right? Like you've gone in to buy, so you haven't given all the money, but you put something up front, and then by the time it's built, I think a lot of people are now running into the wall going, I just can't get the money now. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are hurting. We're hearing it every day, and I feel bad for families who are in that situation, but I can tell you that it's not just one family, it's many families are feeling it, and the more people that feel it, less homes will sell. So as less home sells, more will accumulate, and then, of course, that might put some downward pressure. But right now, because of the lack of inventory, it's held prices a little bit more stable than they otherwise would have been, but that's starting to change.
Stay tuned on that, all right, Frank? Always nice to talk to you. I don't get to talk to you nearly enough, but I appreciate it.
Thank you, and have a great day.
You too. There you go. Frank Leo with his advice. And so, negotiate. I didn't know you could negotiate that kind of thing off the top because I was dumb and young. Now I know. When it comes to that kind of stuff, you can negotiate these commissions. So keep an eye on that one. We have a class action suit here in this market.